Good morning. I am so happy you're here with us today. I am Mary Winters. I am a gerontologist and I am the owner of About Senior Solutions. And you are watching Visionary Aging. I want to share with you a great guest that we have on. We have Steve McCall with a caregiver question. And we have a marvelous lady having a 100th birthday coming up before the end of the month. So we want to celebrate her too. And a little bit about what we do. We provide geriatric care management and solve problems for seniors, work with families in directing any kind of care or support or conflict. Also, so often we see situations where people just don't know what kind of resources to use. So we actually have a fabulous resource for you today. And John Robertson will be with us from Home Accept, and I'll share a little bit more about what he does. Well, you know what? I can tell you right now. He has these fantastic sensors, and we are setting them up in our clients' homes, and they're very non-invasive, which is great. There's no camera, there's no sound or recording to them, but we can place them strategically through the house and know that they've been in the refrigerator to eat. We know that they've been in the medicine cabinet. We know if they're sleeping. Well, we know how much movement they have in the bed, so we know if they're going to bed. We know if they're staying in their chair. We know if they've opened the door. I had somebody open their door at 1 o'clock in the morning, so that was a little concerning. So anyway, we'll have John on. He'll talk more about what he is offering in those sensors. And let me go ahead and we'll go right over to our little lady who is having a birthday. I just think she is so amazing. I just love her little rosy cheeks. Now, they didn't say a whole lot about her, but for turning 100, I'm sure she has a lot more in her life to share about. Her name is Shirley Dunsweiler, and she is from Tulsa, originally, and her family shared with Channel 8 News that on May 27th is her actual birthday, and she was born in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and has lived in the Tulsa area since 1964. She was a teacher, and she has 2 daughters, 3 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. I just think she looks lovely, and I pretty in pink. She looks absolutely gorgeous. And she looks like somebody I want to sit down and have a little cup of tea with myself and enjoy. But happy birthday, Shirley. And I hope you have a fantastic day because you definitely deserve it. In fact, more than a day. So queen for the day, happy birthday for the year. How's that? And then let me go ahead and we're going to add Steve McCullough in here today. Let me go ahead and I'll do this little intro. Hey Steve, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So
I still need to find that shirt in that picture.
Oh, I don't even remember. Oh yeah, the little plaid shirt. So tell me, did you get a caregiver question?
I do have actually a great caregiver question, I think.
Okay.
It's from a person whose father has dementia, and the father appears to be getting more agitated during the day than usual. And they want to know if you could offer some advice on what to do with that situation.
You know, it could be a lot of things, actually. So it could be his decline with his dementia, and it's some of the natural progression. But sometimes we look to issues like a urinary tract infection, which can seem to create more agitation or change in behavior with someone. So I would recommend that they definitely do get in to see their primary physician and just get it checked out. Maybe there's a medication interaction. The other thing too that I see with agitation is sometimes it's pain, especially if it's later in the day. And because people can't articulate how they're feeling when they do have dementia oftentimes, but sometimes they just can't say that my back is hurting. And very often I'll hear people say, well, he did have that back injury when he was working in 1973, but he doesn't complain about it anymore. But that's the way he's complaining about it in the agitation or sometimes even aggression. People get more aggressive. And then the last thing is many people are familiar with the term sundowning, and sometimes that may be an issue taking place with someone with dementia. So it could be a lot of things. It's good to eliminate the pain, eliminate a urinary tract infection, and from there we can also adjust and see what it might be.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah. So we have a really great guest
I'm
on.
excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
So John is phenomenal as far as I think he just kind of created this idea, presented it at a show of some kind of tech show of some kind, and it just started moving forward quickly. So he's joining
So
us.
much potential.
Yes, and he's joining us from Canada today. So how about I go ahead and introduce him, and we'll go ahead and chat a little bit afterwards.
Sounds great. Have a great show, Mary.
All right, thanks. So here we go. We've got John is our topic for the day, and what he provides what he considers proactive care. The name of the company is Home Accept, and as we mentioned, it's in Canada, and they've been producing non-intrusive monitoring solutions intended to measure mobility, medication, uh, toileting without the use of cameras or microphones. He is the founder and CEO of Home Accept Incorporated. His mission is leveraging technology for privacy and solutions to help older adults age in their homes. His professional background is developing business partnerships in consumer electronics. So let's go ahead and welcome John here today. And let's see, I will find him here. I know he's here in the roundup. Let's see, John, where are you? John, where are you? Here we go. Here he is. I'll bring him on now. So I'm excited about this. John, welcome. How are you?
Hi, Mary. You found me.
I found you.
That's what happens with us up on the east coast of Nova Scotia, Canada, right? So.
Oh yeah, there you go. Hey, that's another blue zone. I don't know if you're familiar with the blue zones or not, but that's where more people live to be 100 than any other.
I know we've got in Canada anyway. The oldest demographic in Canada is the province of New Brunswick next door, and then the second one is the province of Nova Scotia. Everyone comes back here to retire and relax.
Interesting. Well, I'm sure your sensors are quite popular there then.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously this is home for us, so we did a lot of our original piloting and testing and research in that here. But primarily, our systems are used mainly in the U.S. and a lot by families and care managers like yourself.
Yeah, no, I found it really helpful. So let's step back a little bit. You came up with the idea. I think the story is that you brought it to a tech show. It was very well received, and you were able to move forward with the project.
Well, close. So what had happened was I was doing some consulting work for another tech startup, and nothing to do with what I'm doing now. But it took me down to the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta.
Wow.
So I had to present their technology there. And afterwards, I ended up with just in a conversation with one of their policy people. And he was telling me that he was working on the CDC strategy for aging in place, told me about demographic changes, the silver tsunami, and the challenges it was going to be putting on the US healthcare system. So I just became fascinated with that. I hadn't heard the term silver tsunami before.
Wow.
So went away from that and just started to do some research as to where some of the gaps might be in helping people age in place more. The monitoring area became of interest. And then we came up for the idea of sort of non-intrusive ambient type sensors. Sketched out the idea on basically on a napkin, and we actually at that time, this was early 2017 now, we submitted it into the AARP they had a contest for like a technology contest for innovations in caregiving.
Okay.
So we thought, hey, you know what? If we get some mention, that would be great. That would be some press for us, maybe help us out. But we ended up winning the competition. So we flew down to Washington, D.C., spent a little time with them they call it the Hatchery, which is their tech incubator in D.C. And then we started working on the idea, and it took us a couple of years of making a lot of mistakes until we finally kind of got to the technology that we have today, which really is answers the problem, I think, that we were trying to solve.
Oh, absolutely. I've really enjoyed using it with my clients. I was mentioning earlier before we started the show that I could tell that one of my clients opened her front door at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is a little alarming to us.
Right.
And, so it helps me also, in addition to understanding if they've opened the refrigerator to eat, how often they're opening and shutting it. I mean, well, maybe they're not finding anything to eat, so they keep opening and shutting. The medication idea, as far as putting it with their medication or with their box, really helps to understand if they're able to take their medication. And it doesn't have any cameras, so it's so nice. They don't feel like they're being intruded on. But it also helps me to understand a little bit about whether they have good decision-making skills, like opening
Right.
the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's been a great help for us, and I think it helps the families feel better as well because they know that mom has been sitting in her chair most of the day, but she's getting up and she's going to bed in the evening. And I think you also mentioned toileting and UTIs. We in the caregiver question, somebody talked about being agitated. It kind of helps to understand if somebody's not using the bathroom, then they're dehydrated or they're incontinent or we've got something we need to definitely address. So,
Absolutely. I mean, that's the key component of so traditionally technology in the aging in place market, traditionally it's always been reactive, right? It's the push, help me, I can't get up button,
right,
as an example.
right,
But this is all about being proactive. So
yeah,
it's finding the little things that are changing. And rather than, like you said, rather than using cameras or wearables, one of the biggest challenges with getting technology adopted in an older adult's home is if you're trying to force them to change their daily routines,
mhm.
then chances are the technology is not going to get adopted. Like I love my Apple Watch, right? I mean, I love it. It's a great gadget. Keeps us all on track. But if I give my father, he's 86 years old, an Apple Watch, then it's going to be fine for the first 24 to 48 hours. But as soon as it needs to be recharged,
I know,
it's not going to do any good, right?
right, exactly.
So you really need something. You have to get over that barrier. And so what we did was we said, let's take a completely different approach. Rather than tagging the individual and looking at them and making them do something, let's just tag the things that they use every day. And that way we can adjust this for hundreds of different use cases. And the best way to give you, I'll give you some stories that come from care managers.
Sure.
So one story is a family would stop by every day to visit dad after work. And on days when it was a bit wet, they'd notice footprints in the driveway. And they were concerned because their father had dementia and there was a big set of. Whoop, somehow I got muted there.
Your buttons work like mine too.
There we go. It's gremlins in the tech. Um, so, so they were concerned about dad coming down that set of stairs. They were also very concerned because the mailbox was right next to a busy road. So they told him, they said, Dad, we'll pick up the mail and when we come and we'll bring it up to you. But they felt he was going down there because they keep seeing on the wet days these footprints in the driveway. So what they did, the care manager said, let's tag the mailbox.
Mm.
So they did. They put a tag on the mailbox. And sure enough, 6 to 8 times a day, the mailbox was being opened.
Oh, wow. That's
Right.
interesting.
And I don't
Yeah.
know, the post person doesn't show up 6 to 8 times a day. So
Right.
what they did was the care manager actually, it was a clever solution. They said, look, let's make up a package and put it in like a little miniature Amazon type package. Let's put it in the mailbox, see what happens. So they did that. And the next day he went down and he got the package and he brought it up. I'm not sure exactly what they had put in the package, but the really cool part was the day after,
Mhm.
he didn't go back down. And the day after that, he didn't go back down. And the day after that, he didn't go back down. So whatever his fixation was at that moment in time on that mailbox, that was enough to break it. And that's, to me, that's what proactive care is all about, because where you're being preventative there is that he could have taken a very nasty fall down the stairs
Absolutely.
right in front of the house. He could have been out, like we said earlier, near that busy road where the mailbox is. So it's having that kind of information so that you can make choices beforehand to help coach the routine or change the behavior. You mentioned the UTI earlier, and by tagging the flush mechanism on a toilet or even the water intake line on a toilet, because that will often vibrate when the toilet is flushed, then you can see the pattern evolving there. So that if toileting is decreasing, like you said, dehydration. If it's increasing, it could be a UTI. And the nice thing is that if we identify a UTI early, then it's a $10 antibiotic to fix it, as opposed to a hospitalization when someone needs to falls or they need to go on IV based antibiotics. Now, the other thing about this tech is we do leverage AI, so we leverage artificial intelligence for it. Because the other problem with this, and this is kind of the nature of where our name came from, Home Accept, because what this is about finding the exceptions to the behavior, right? Like it's like crying wolf all the time. So if you're constantly checking your phone, eventually you're going to stop checking it unless you're addicted to Instagram and you're scrolling through. But if you're constantly checking it, then it's like you stop hearing what it has to say. So really what we're concerned about is that 1 or 2% of the time when things are changing or when there's an anomaly, like mom hasn't opened the fridge by the time in the morning when she normally does. Because what does that mean? It could mean that a wellness check is due because maybe she fell in the hallway.
Right.
And so maybe she get up, she went to the bathroom, all that is normal. But then she's going down the hallway, she trips and falls, she's stuck, and she can't get to the fridge like she normally does. So we're not going to notice that as individuals, right? It, like we would have to be literally looking at a dashboard or a screen on our phone all the time.
Oh, it's true.
But the AI notices it, right?
Yeah, and that's even with, I had a client recently say, you know, I have a camera, I have cameras in the house for my dad, but, and I just look at them. Like, gosh, you're sitting at the restaurant all night watching those cameras versus what you're saying with the AI. So it alerts you when they're out of pattern, correct?
Absolutely. And we do have scenarios where we have seen families that are comfortable with cameras in the home, and that's fine, right? So, but they blend it. So what they do is they use our technology to help them know when to look at the camera, right?
Yeah.
So if mom hasn't opened the fridge, then the camera doesn't know that, right? And they don't know that. But when we say mom hasn't opened the fridge, then the wellness check is check on the camera, or the wellness check might be drop in on your Amazon Alexa, and provided you're not terrifying your mother, say, hey mom, is everything okay? Right. And then she can verbally respond. And so there's a lot of ways of being able to do that. Now, the other component to this is that it takes a village, right? So it's not about making sure that, so you want to be able to share the load. And what we do is we basically allow for a circle of care. So you can add as many guests on to the system as you want. So if it's multiple children and siblings involved, if it's caregivers, care managers, maybe the neighbor next door is the emergency. Can you go over and check on dad? Type of contact. Then those can all be added in, so people can share in the notifications, because we're not doing the responding, right? This is all about the circle of care being able to provide a level of support.
No, it's fascinating, and it's so helpful because you're just sitting around wondering what dad's doing versus being able to have some connection and say, oh, he's sitting in the chair a little bit longer than he normally would. and that's even kind of a side point, but just having the comfort of knowing that they are eating. You have some things that also gauge temperature too. Can you share a little bit about that? So you might be worried
Yeah.
about somebody cooking
Well,
on the stove, using the stove.
yeah, it's the same. It's the same technology. It's the same tag actually. So what we've put is in the tag, we can track the motion and movement of a tag. So any object that's been tagged, but the tag also tracks the temperature and humidity, and actually air pressure as well. So the thing about temperature is that if it's around the stove, if you
Mhm.
tag, let's say, near the range hood or anywhere near the stove, when that stove comes on, it's going to detect the increase in room temperature. If that stays at a sustained level in around, let's say, for more than an hour, then it can provide you with an insight or a notification to say, oh, the stove might be left on, and then you can be able to respond to that. So the other key thing here is that in addition to the AI, and we call those insights that the app, our software is generating on its own, but you can also set notifications for anything. So if you've got a specific concern, like the mailbox what example was a good one, right? The mailbox, you can set notifications to say every time the mailbox is open, send me a notification. And that is for those types of short-term problems. We had one family suspected mom, she was sundowning and they were trying to figure out what was going on. And someone in the family said, she likes to vacuum. I wonder what's going on with the vacuum. So they tagged the vacuum cleaner, and sure enough, between 2 and 3 almost every night she was up vacuuming.
Ah, interesting.
Right, so they
That's
were
good.
able to identify what that was, and just by setting notifications up and by looking and addressing that particular behavior.
Sure. I mean, you can get really clever with the tags. You can set one in, like, say, a silverware drawer, and
Oh,
they've
absolutely.
actually opened that. They're still using silverware to eat versus just opening up the refrigerator and taking out some yogurt or just some peanut butter from the cupboard.
Well,
Um,
and we have some caregivers that what they'll do is they'll drop off meals to mom or dad, and they'll put them in the fridge or even in the freezer,
mhm.
and they'll tag the actual meals so that they know when that meal has actually been moved and taken out. Because
Oh,
our tags can be used indoors or outdoors, and you can put them in the freezer. They're good to like -70 Fahrenheit, so I think you'll be good. Um, so there's no issues with that type of thing. But yeah, you can get as clever as you want, and some people have very complex medication adherence issues. So
yeah.
in some cases, they might use 3 tags that are just related to different times of day for different types of medications.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I would imagine that people probably use them on garage doors to see if somebody's
Yeah.
opening the garage door or leaving them in your glove compartment. Well, I know it has to be close to the house still too, or your Wi-Fi, but I would imagine if somebody's getting in the car and you're worried about somebody driving and it still triggers
Well, it's
that
fun.
front
Yeah, it's
door
fun.
to open.
It's funny you mention that because that's another story. So we don't actually use Wi-Fi. So we use an industrial strength mesh networking technology. So we get a lot more range out of that. So we
Okay.
pretty much can work anywhere on the property, indoors and outdoors. Um, but we did have a scenario where a care manager was saying we got to get the keys away from your father, and the family they were in denial. They were saying he's never taking the car out. He might be taking it out once a week, if that, because he really did not want to give up those keys. So what they did was they dropped a tag inside the door of the car, just in the little holder there.
Sure.
And sure enough, I mean, the car door was opening 3, 4 times a day.
Oh, God.
And then when he left the property, of course, there's a notification to say that it's lost signal, right? So as it started to drive down the road, so you could see, okay, and how long he's been away for. Because when the signal comes back, then we know that he's been gone for 2 hours, right? Or he's been gone for 15 minutes.
That's right.
So all of a sudden, when you start going from, oh, he's out once a week to, no, he's out 3 or 4 times a day, that changes the urgency on the conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. John Roberts is with us today, and he is the CEO of Home Accept. You're hearing a little bit about the sensors and the artificial intelligence, right? That they use for older adults. I guess you could use them with children or people of any age, really, if you were
Yeah.
concerned about what they were doing. I guess not a bad idea to use for your teenagers when you leave the house. So multiple uses. But John, thank you so much for describing in more detail what you do. It's been super helpful and very effective for my clients, and we're expanding that use of the sensors with our clients too. So thank you for creating this. It was
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
absolutely. Thanks so much, and have a great weekend.
Yes, you too.
All right, thank you. All right, John. I just find this technology amazing. I think I called him John Roberts, so I'm sorry. John Robertson of Home Accept. And feel free to reach out to our office too, 626-359-0108, and we can get you more information on the sensors. So let me go ahead and we'll bring Steven back on, and I probably have him on. Oh, there we go. Oh,
Hey,
there's
John.
just now. Sorry, John. There we go. I'm just a really bad button pusher today.
You're pushing the right buttons.
Yeah, I'm not doing very well. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. Today. Okay. So, what'd you think?
I thought it was amazing. Wasn't it funny how people come across concepts or ideas that they weren't necessarily looking for, right?
Oh, well,
So,
it sounds like our country came to him and said, "We need you," and
Yeah.
he's fulfilling a need for us, which is really very valuable. I have to say, it's been pretty telling on some of the situations that we have when we knew people were probably sitting in their chair longer than they should, but we didn't know that they were getting up 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night, or
Right.
that they were opening the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. So these were
Right.
things we had to have more discussions about to make sure that we were keeping their loved ones safe. So
Right. And I loved his example, the story about the gentleman driving and his family being in denial and thinking that he drove once a week or, very sporadically, to come to find out that it's, multiple times a day, 3 or 4 times a day, and
yeah,
out for hours.
and even if he was moving around quite a bit, even if they weren't in denial, they knew he was driving, they knew he was driving more than he should, at least they had really good detailed information. He might not even remember that he's leaving that often.
Right.
But it also kind of helps me as a care manager understand some of their decision-making skills and whether we need to have more support in the house for them. So it's I think very, very fascinating. So I am really pleased that he came on, and I feel very fortunate to be able to work with his organization and provide these sensors for our clients. So I love it.
Yeah, sounds like a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. All righty. Well, I'm going to take off and run off with my day. I have several people we need to go see today. But you have anything interesting this weekend that you're doing?
I'm catching up on some sleep this weekend. It's been a long week. I started working out with your friend, Melinda.
Oh, really?
So,
Melinda's on the
yes.
show? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been working out with her for the last couple of weeks, well, her company, and it's been great, but it's definitely a workout. I'm exhausted
Oh,
after.
yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't think that a 20-minute workout could wipe you out, but
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. So
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
on and do some regular little segments with us too, so that'll be great. So anyway,
Mhm.
I'm going to let you go, and you all have a fabulous day, fabulous weekend, and we will
Great
see
show,
you
Mary.
next week. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.